Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's here. This is the Port of Bellingham Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting for Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. Our mission at the Port is to promote sustainable economic development, optimize transportation gateways, and manage publicly owned land and facilities to benefit Whatcom County. There are multiple ways to participate in the meeting. We appreciate everyone who shows up and is here in person. Thank you. You can also participate by phone, Zoom, and on YouTube. I'm going to start by closing the executive session and opening the public meeting with roll call. Commissioner Briscoe? Here. Commissioner James?
Present.
And Commissioner Shepard is also here. We start out our meeting with public comment. The Port welcomes public comment at commission meetings. To ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak, the commission generally listens without engaging in back and forth discussion during the meeting. Commissioners will consider input received and may request follow-up by our executive director or ask that the issue is scheduled for a future public discussion. There are two public comment periods during each regular commission meeting, one at 4 p.m. and the other at the end of our regularly scheduled business. Each comment period may be limited to 15 minutes, and we ask that speakers keep their remarks to 3 minutes or less. We always welcome written comments. Let's see, I've got a list here of folks who have signed up. The first person on my list is Vince Bicunis. You have to help me with that pronunciation.
I would only make two suggestions. One is in section 5, in addition to training materials to implement the resolution, I suggest that you add that the terms know your rights training for port employees and commercial tenants should be specified as a distinct item. And then also, you could add a section 10, and it could read coordination with Whatcom County, City of Bellingham, and other cities, Border Patrol, WTA, and other public and private entities as reasonable, because I don't see that coordination aspect in the document itself. Anyway, thanks very much. Appreciate your work.
Thank you very much. Stan Parker.
Thanks, Andrew. I was just going to ask for that.
Is it on?
There we go, that's better. Sorry.
My name's Stan Parker. I live in Bellingham, Washington, and I'm also here to support your work trying to restrain ICE. I think it's very good and very necessary, and I realize, as the previous speaker said, in many ways your hands are tied. One example I think of is Uber. I realize Uber is not allowed to go to the airport and pick up or deliver people. There's some mechanism you keep Uber out of the airport. I wish that mechanism would keep ICE out of the airport too. Thank you for your time. And also, I know there was concern before that people left early. I will leave early because we're trying to get to the county council, but I do watch on computer all of your meetings, and thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Maybe our director could clarify on the Uber situation before we get any farther.
Yes, so we have restored the Uber service at the airport, and that was directly related to a fee dispute that we had with them that's now been resolved. So they are actually servicing the airport.
Could we put a fee on ICE?
I don't think that falls in our powers. Next person I have on my list is Alan Lifson.
Great, thank you. Thanks for allowing us to speak. My name is Alan Lifson. I'm a resident of Bellingham. I also use the port facilities, and I also wanted to compliment the board on bringing this measure forward, and wanted to say a little bit why I think this is important to also employees of the port as well as to the clients that you serve. First of all, my impression is that many of the people who use the maritime and aviation port activities are either immigrants themselves or family members of immigrants, and ICE has clearly shown disdain for due process for the rights of individuals, including detention of U.S. citizens with no criminal records, without legal representation, in facilities that have a documented record of unsanitary conditions, physical and mental health. In contrast, this measure offers protection to those who use port facilities by restricting detention and other ICE civil immigration activities in port properties. Second, I think in the current climate of fear, I think staff may feel that they're reluctant to get involved for fear of retribution. But in contrast, this provision supports Know Your Rights training, policies for staff and others, so port staff actually become empowered in the knowledge that they are excluded from assisting ICE, that they can witness, document, and report suspicious activities, and that they can assist victims such as collecting names, collecting family contact information when it's safe to do so. And finally, port employees, customers, like all of us, like the people here, we're all members of the Whatcom community, and ICE's climate of fear and lawlessness threatens our economy, such as those employed by farms, restaurants, hotels, construction, who fear going to work. It threatens the health of our community, such as those with serious health conditions who fear going to hospitals and clinics because they could be swept up and detained for indefinite periods of time or deported. So I guess what I would say to the port is that, we're not alone in this endeavor. The movement to impose ICE and its climate of fear is gathering momentum, and as you just heard, even in our county council, which is considering a resolution as well. So basically, it's the right thing to do. It's the decent thing to do for people we serve, and I urge you to pass this resolution.
Thank you very much. Dan Tucker.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dan Tucker with the Working Waterfront Coalition. Just wanted to say that we've got, for folks that are listening, not aware, we have tomorrow, June 10th, a walking tour of the GP West site. We encourage anyone who's interested in the the environmental mitigation that's going on there to come out 3:30. It's hosted by Resources. And that's tomorrow, and it's meeting in front of the Container Village. If you cannot make tomorrow, because it is short notice from today, June 24th, we're having another walking tour of the shipping terminal, starting at 5 from the Container Village out right in front, and it'll come back at 6 p.m. to Colston Trackside, and we'll have some drinks and further discussion on the future of the terminal and the operations and what even is a break bulk. So we hope to see you guys all there. And then we had a fantastic opportunity come up just recently that I wanted to share with you, where Bellingham Technical College has partnered with one of our commercial fishermen and their vessel, and they're creating a network whereby you can get college credit for your aquaculture and fisheries programs at Bellingham Technical College if you go on board one of these vessels. So if anyone listening is in an aquaculture or fishery program and wants to get college credit for being on a commercial fishing vessel, reach out to us. I can help connect you to that opportunity. But that's super cool, and I would encourage the port to maybe think about other ways that we could help get people out on the water on our commercial fishing vessels in our aquaculture and fisheries programs, either through supporting sponsorships or scholarships for those types of programs, or any other way that we might brainstorm to do that.
Very good. Thank you. Steve Powers.
Hi, I'm Steve Powers, live in Deming. Thank you for taking my comments, and so many great things going on. That's really awesome. I'm really grateful to all the effort that's gone into putting this resolution on to tonight's agenda. All of us came forward asking you to help with protecting users of the port from ICE and CBP activities, and you've moved this forward, so I'm grateful for that. However, it's missing a really key component. If you look at the Seattle order, there's 4 very specific and defined bullet points regarding Know Your Rights. And the Bellingham resolution as it stands now does not even use that term, and it certainly doesn't describe in detail what needs to be done for Know Your Rights. And just looking at the situation, ICE and CBP are regularly violating our 4th and 5th Amendment rights to the Constitution and defying federal court orders. So just imagine yourself as a staff person of the port witnessing someone being taken by masked agents, put in an unmarked car. You're gonna be a deer in the headlights unless you have really robust know your rights trainings with role plays and other things that really help you to understand how you can stand up for your rights. The only protection we have against the behavior of the federal government right now is to know your rights and to exercise them assertively. And I'm frankly really disappointed that that completely is missing from this resolution that's before you right now. That's a key component of the Seattle order that we asked you to follow, and it's missing. So I'd like to just get a show of hands of how many people would like a really robust Know Your Rights training section added to the resolution. So thank you for that. And the intentions were good here. I'm really grateful for all the effort that's gone into this. I'm not upset with anybody or anything. I just think a mistake was made here in not including that. So please, I don't know your process. Are you able to amend it tonight and put something in there? That sounds plausible. I don't know what your process, or do you need to table it and look at it again at the next meeting? So I'll defer to you on that. But please add something, really strong statement about Know Your Rights trainings to the resolution. And thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Very good.
I was just going to say, thanks, Steve. There's an opportunity for the commission to have discussion during that item.
I had a few minutes. I do have to go to the county council meeting tonight too, so I'm sorry to leave early, but thank you very much.
Next person on my list is Wendy Sopp.
You got the name right. Thank you. Wendy Zopp from Bellingham. I'm here in gratitude for your work on Resolution 1432 and to ask that you make a few changes that you've already been hearing about to make it even better. There's plenty of evidence of widespread illegal and inhumane behavior by ICE and CBP agents toward our immigrant friends and neighbors under the current federal administration. This does so much damage to individuals and to our society collectively. It hurts us economically, threatens public health, and can cause us to lose faith in our system of laws and our trust in government. We need our local officials to stand up and assert authority wherever and whenever they can to protect all of our community members, to block federal agents from engaging in illegal enforcement activity, to block the harms they are causing. Thank you for accepting this responsibility and providing local leadership on this issue. So the two additions that I ask for are requirements for Know Your Rights training and policies for port employees and for commercial tenants. And to add requirements that the port coordinate with county, city, and other public entities to block illegal ICE and CBP behavior to the maximum extent possible. Again, thank you for your important work on this issue. I hope you'll consider these and pass a revised resolution as soon as possible.
Thank you. Last person on my list is Jason Mark.
Well, thank you again. Again, my name is Jason Mark. I'm a Bellingham resident. Thank you all again to commissioners and staff for listening to community concerns about ICE and Customs Border Patrol activities at the airport and port properties. And thank you, Ms. Stafford, for the really excellent resolution here. I think it's a great start. I think to echo some of the folks and to draw it back to what we heard from commissioners 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Briscoe said, well, let's not just have something that's words on paper. How do we actually have something that's actionable? And so I do think that's why these concerns around what you're hearing, the feedback from community members about staff training is so important. Like, that's how the port can make this more than words on paper, right? Like any organization, your most important asset is your employees. Of course, here at the port, there's your physical plant, but employees are the lifeblood of your organization, and equipping them with training so that they know what to do if they are concerned that they see something that violates constitutional rights, especially around due process and unreasonable search and seizure, is really important. I think that's what the port can do to put flesh on the bones of this. And so I think that's why you're hearing all these concerns about Section 5. Could that be strengthened? I've heard, I'm not sure this is correct, that some of those trainings are already happening, but if so, could it be explicit in the resolution that directs the executive director and then the executive director's staff to do those sorts of trainings? Also recognizing that writing by committee is no fun. I'm sorry, Ms. Stafford, that you're getting so much feedback here. I think the whereases is great, and whereases are obviously relatively cheap in any resolution. But there's one thing that maybe could be added here. It talks about that you want to have the port in alignment with local, state, and federal law. But I think it's really important to name the constitutionality issues here that are at play here, that we're really seeing as people are talking about masked men grabbing people, putting them in unmarked cars, taking them who knows where. We're seeing this right up here at Civic Center Plaza. We're seeing this in Everson, at the place where people are wiring money back to their families. I'm sure we're seeing this in other parts of the county that go unreported. And so that's really what's at stake here, is how this body is going to respond to what we're seeing are systemic violations of residents' constitutional rights. It says no person in the Constitution. You guys have probably heard the phrase, it's kind of famous now, if men were angels, we'd need no government. Well, you only need like 5 seconds of doom scrolling to see that the people in this presidential administration are no angels. So I'm hoping that every level of government, including the Port of Bellingham, can do something to hold them accountable to the rule of law. Thanks so much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else present who would like to provide public comment? Please come up.
Hi, my name is Rachel Badelsky, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear everyone's remarks. I don't have any prepared remarks, so I just want to echo the two suggestions that have been made prior to myself coming up here about Section 5 and Section 10. But I really want to express deep gratitude to all of you for taking this seriously, for listening to the people here and acting on that. I'm here as one person. Each of the people who have stood up here are not only representing their own beliefs, but all of the people who couldn't be here today, the people who are working right now, the people who didn't know that this meeting was happening, but feel very deeply about what the decisions that you are making might affect our community. So thank you.
Anyone else in the room wish to provide public comment? Yes.
Todd Legacy here as a private citizen. Thank you, commissioners. I'm not going to talk about your resolution. I'm going to talk about hopefully adding something to your agenda in the future, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, the PUD gives the Pledge of Allegiance before they start a meeting. Whatcom County gives the Pledge of Allegiance before they start a meeting for their county council. The city of Bellingham used to do that and then stopped between 2020 and 2021. And I think that as we look at trying to make sure that we're holding our government accountable and that our government knows what it's supposed to do, restoring that or incorporating that Pledge of Allegiance is important. And as a veteran, I think that it's vitally important that everybody knows what the role of government is. So I just hope you'll consider that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Okay, we will have a second public comment period at the end of our regularly scheduled business, if nobody else steps forward. Okay, up.
I just want to say I have to leave early too, so I'm going to.
Okay.
I didn't want to be rude.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone's busy. We know. All right. Well, we are going to move on with our agenda. Our first item on our agenda is a new hire introduction.
Hi, Julie Bram, Accounting Supervisor at the Port, and it's my pleasure to introduce Patrick Freeland, who is our new AP Specialist. He comes to us with a lot of experience in procurement and AP, and we're super excited to have him. So,
Very good.
Welcome.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're moving on to our consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
Questions or comments? Commissioner James?
Not any particular question other than regarding the surplus equipment, the 1969 Ford F-250. It's pretty cool looking. Are you sure that we don't need that? Okay, all right, last ditch effort. That's my only question.
Sounds like an antique.
Yeah.
should go at trackside. Yeah, no, okay.
I don't have any questions.
No questions or comments for you? You don't want the, you don't want the forklift? No? No, all right.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. All right, we have one presentation. It is a Blaine update. Ben Howard and Andy Peterson.
Commissioners, just before this staff gets ready to present on this, I think as I've notified you all individually yesterday, we did receive some news on a little funding hiccup in this project. So just prefacing this, and then at the end of their presentation, which they have amended some of the dates and timelines for this particular presentation, we still think it's really valuable. The plan is still there. But then Mike will get up to speak about our recommendation on a legislative approach to figure out how to fix the funding gap. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Tiffany. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ben Howard, a Remediation Program Manager. Today I'm presenting with Andy Peterson an update for the Blaine Marine Industrial Area. And I'd like to acknowledge that the work has been a port team effort, including engineering, planning, Blaine Harbor, real estate, environmental divisions. So you can see there's been a lot of work from a lot of touches on this project. The agenda today, so the presentation today will provide an update on staff work progressing the projects in the Blaine Marine Industrial Area. The agenda includes the Westman Marine Cleanup Project, the boatyard development, the Marine Drive bulkhead and roadway access, the north and south piers, and marine fueling facility. So we'll start with the Westman Marine cleanup. The Westman Marine site has operated as a marine vessel maintenance and repair facility since the 1950s and is currently vacant. Historical boatyard operations resulted in hazardous substances that require remediation under the Model Toxics Control Act, or MOTCA. The Port and Ecology recently negotiated a consent decree that had a public comment period in April 2026. And the consent decree will be a future commission action for authorization and court filing. So the JARPA, the federal permitting application, was submitted in June 2025. And we are expecting to receive the final federal permit within the next month. So very close to getting the project permitted. Along with the permitting, the engineering team is in the process of finalizing 100% design and the bid advertisement. So we are prepared to start construction this summer. The port has been in the process of working with the Department of Ecology to provide remedial action grant funding for the project. The project has existing funding, but we do need additional funding for the full construction project. We submitted a grant reprogramming request to Ecology to transfer existing funding from other Port of Bellingham projects in order to fund the Westman Marine project. Unfortunately, as Tiffany noted, we received Ecology's decision yesterday that Ecology cannot approve the reprogramming to the Westman project. Mike Hogan will provide an update, a brief after this presentation on that. Although in anticipation of the reprogramming maybe not being a possibility, we did submit a grant application in March 2026 for this project. In the reprogramming request, we had told Ecology we could, take away that grant application and provide funding to other statewide projects if they funded the Westman Marine project. So the application in March was for the 27-29 biennium, so the next state budget in 27-29. We are hopeful that the Westman Marine project will rank high and funding will be allocated in the future. So given the current funding status, we anticipate bid advertisement and construction will be initiated in summer 2027. So a delay of at least a year. And this is just a quick slide, kind of a reminder of what the cleanup project, what their different components are. So the elements of the cleanup are the bulkhead replacement to support the upland and in-water work, filling of the former marine railway, upland soil removal, environmental capping and grading, and sediment dredging and offsite disposal. And travel lift piers to support a 200-ton and 50-ton travel lift, and these will replace the former marine railway. And the floats and gangways are also planned to be constructed with the cleanup project. So the cleanup project is being coordinated with the boatyard design, and Andy will describe that. So, thanks.
Hey, Ben, could you just talk us through the prioritization process? Like, why is it the type of pollution that is driving the prioritization is different in Whatcom Waterway versus Blaine? Or is it a cost metric, or is it, you know, for me, it often feels like Blaine is on the periphery, and so it gets less attention because it's farther away from the major populations center. I don't expect that's the rationale, but that's how we often sometimes feel with the lack of investment in Blaine, and we want to make sure we're advocating for this funding. Yeah, so this goes back, the funding we had requested earlier was from the 25-27 biennium, and Ecology has scoring criteria. So, public entities can submit for grants. I can't remember off the top of my head how many there were, but I think like around 40 to 50 grant submittals, statewide. And they do have a scoring criteria that, it's on their website, and you can, see all the criteria. Part of it is they do a hazard assessment. Part of it is, how close you are ready to actually construct the project. So, are you in investigation stage, or do you have permits and have, design documents ready to go? So there's a timing aspect to it.
Which is exactly why, if I can interrupt, sorry, which is exactly why after the budget process over the last couple of years with the commission, we thought this one had a really good choice because we were far along in design and planning and permit application.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised just because we've been working with Ecology, there's been a lot of Ecology staff resources to this project. Like I said, the consent decree went out for public comment, which was was a big effort. We've been submitting for, construction stormwater permits, and our, toxics program manager has been helping us move everything along with the MODCA process. So there's been a lot of effort just to get us to today to construct the project. And then, so not exactly sure why the funding didn't come through.
Yeah, and Michael addressed kind of our expectation and legislative effort for kind of dynamic grant reprogramming with regard to MACA funds when he presents.
So from that criteria, I heard kind of the toxicity. So there may be some decision on how how volatile the toxicity is in the water and in the soils, comparatively. But some of those other criteria, including readiness for the project to move forward, the kind of staff work, and how far along the kind of other parts of the equation are moving too.
Yeah, and the ranking can be, kind of subjective too.
Of course. Okay.
Question about the ranking, if I may
Yeah.
go further here. So we have the money. We're given the money for the project over here that we want to move the money from because we're a ways away from getting that done. That doesn't have anything to do with ranking, right? That we already were told you can have that money, correct?
Identified as the Whatcom Waterway project.
The Whatcom Waterway
Phase
Phase 2.
two.
Yeah.
So there's no ranking on that money. That has already been dedicated to us, correct?
For
Am I
that
correct in
project.
that assumption?
For that project.
Okay, so really, them not letting us do the other project that's within the Port of Bellingham's properties and is a cleanup project that needs to be cleaned up and is probably just as dirty as the waterway is over there. They're telling us we can't use our own money that's been dedicated to cleanup on port property, on this project on port property, because we're not ready to do this one, but we're ready to do this one, and they're telling us we can't do any. Is that what they're telling us?
That is correct.
Okay, well, I want to get correct on the
Yeah.
table because I'm pretty pissed about this.
That is correct, and Mike's gonna talk about kind of how we got here. There used to be a little bit more leeway in
Smells a little fishy,
reprogramming.
like maybe the money already went somewhere else because they knew we weren't going to be ready to do this, so they pulled our money.
Well, there's always a fight for money.
Well, there's no fight if it's already been distributed to us. It's not a fight. It's our funding to get to do a cleanup. And
Yes.
if we so choose to do this cleanup versus this cleanup, it's still an environmental cleanup.
Yes.
This isn't 1 and 2, it's a cleanup. So I don't know how the hell they're thinking down there, but it's pretty goddamn backwards if you ask me.
Yeah. And they did approve some reprogramming for the chlor-alkali cleanup in this same request, but not the Blaine.
Yeah, so I guess as a note, we did request funding, they call it reprogramming, kind of the funding transfer. We did request that for 2 projects. One was the Georgia Pacific chlor-alkali, which we're doing the public meeting tomorrow. They did allocate money for that project to move forward, and that'll help get the cleanup done for that project.
Let me ask this question. We had enough money to reallocate for both projects or only one of the 2?
But yeah, we do have existing funding in Wacom Waterway
Would
to
have
fund both
covered
projects.
So it wasn't
Correct.
one or the other?
Yes.
I don't
Correct.
want that misinterpretation it was one or the other.
That's correct.
We had enough for both.
That's correct. And it was a
Thank you.
request for about 4 million for chlor-alkali and about 11 million for the Westman cleanup.
I have a question about the timing. So the funding for this project, we never got it. It was never approved. But we were hopeful that we could shuffle based on timing.
Yes.
And they're saying no to that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we were allocated money to do that, but we're not ready to do it. So the money is there. It's basically our money in that block. What they're saying is that we can't use it for another cleanup project that's ready to go. So they want us to wait. Well, how far out are we on this one over here, Wacom Waterway? 5 years, 10 years?
That's the $1 million question. Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm saying,
Yes.
I mean, 5 years, 10 years, and we can get this one done in a year and a half. Doesn't make any sense. The government's kind of backwards. Did you follow what I was getting at?
Yeah, but I guess.
The money is blocked for us, for the Port of
Yeah.
Bellingham.
I get that part. I think the part that I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding was that this wasn't approved. We didn't have the money for this project, but there was a hope that we could do some shuffling, but we don't get to.
Bank's a bank. When they tell you you've got this amount of money to clean up ground with, it shouldn't matter what piece of ground when they've been working on it and they know this one's ready.
Well, I don't want to disagree with you on that, but I'm just saying I don't think that's the way the program works.
Yeah, I think.
Not entirely true. It's worked that way in several cases.
Yeah.
Yes, and I went to WPPA Port Days in Olympia with Mike and Brian, and watched the conversations unfold, letting our senators and representatives know how important this level of flexibility is for just moving things forward. But it sounded like that's not a thing yet, always.
Well, it's the airports. We can, there's been ports give other ports money for their airports because they had too much in the pool, so to speak, and the projects weren't ready, but somebody needed it. So there's a constant shifting amongst ports of things like that. So this isn't new by any means. And I think we've even, in the port here, if I'm not incorrect, we've even moved money between projects before.
Yeah.
So this isn't new by any means at all.
That's correct. That's correct. Same
The only
thing.
thing that's new is they decided they didn't want to let us do it. That's the
Okay.
only thing that's new.
Okay.
Precedent was already set that it could be done.
Okay. Continue on.
All right, yeah, well, thank you. And as Tiffany noted, Mike's going to give a brief too later, so there could be more discussion if needed. So, yeah, I'll pass it on to Andy. Yeah,
Thanks, Ben. We all had the wind out of our sails yesterday afternoon, so we're feeling particularly sensitive about this one.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Andy Peterson, Harbor Master of Blaine Harbor. Thank you for having me down here tonight. Start off right now with a quick boatyard progress update. So as I mentioned at our last update, we have our travel lift fully certified and running right now. The port's been investigating some grant opportunities that we could use. There was a small shipyard grant that we may still be able to fit the criteria for that grant. So we're looking for money to help this whole process along. Since my last meeting with you, we have retained a design and engineering firm to help us design the uplands, so not the actual cleanup, but the actual upland of the boatyard design and the layout. We do have capital budget for 2027, 2028 to get some of this work done. And so we're checking off all the boxes of what we need to do to move this thing forward. After bringing the design team on board, port staff took a couple field trips down to the Port of Everett, Port of Port Townsend to go ahead and look and see what other public ports are, how they're operating their boatyards, and look at some of their best practices that we could adopt and incorporate into our upland design. So we're moving forward with that. I'm gonna bump the slide forward and give you a sneak peek of a concept here. We all like pictures, so there's kind of a sneak peek of the yard space that we've got to work with in Blaine. And just keep in mind that this graphic is just a snapshot of a moment in time, because boatyards can be very dynamic places. So what you might see on a drawing today, next week would be completely different depending on which boats are coming and going and how we can, it's kind of like a big game of Tetris where you're kind of fitting everybody in. So this would just be a concept snapshot.
Would that be the new name for the boatyard? Blaine Tetris Boatyard?
Blaine Tetris Boatyard.
We're calling it the cleanest, greenest boatyard on the West Coast.
There we go. So the one thing that we'd like to just mention is our concept is that this is going to be an active boatyard. This isn't going to be storage. This is going to be boats that are coming in, getting hauled out, having work done on them, supporting the marine trades. We're not interested in having a place where we're going to lay up boats for 6 months or anything like that. We're looking for active projects. Something else that occurred to me the other night is that we have an opportunity here to create a mini marina service center, because it's not just boatyard activity, but we could be attracting other stuff where people are just coming in by water and having marine trades work on their canvas or doing electronics. Does the kind of work they might not necessarily have to haul the boat out of the water, but we will have some moorage associated with this site that the marine trades could book and have customers and clients come to Blaine. So it's not just the haul out. There's a lot of opportunity here. This design continues access to our current Sawtooth Pier. So our commercial fishers will be able to get to and from the Sawtooth Pier. Around the outside of that drawing, you'll see some red rectangles, and we envision that possibly being containers that our marine trades could rent. So if we had a business that historically has operated in Bellingham and they want to have a footprint in Blaine, and we don't have a lot of real estate up there that we could rent out, but they could rent a container from us to keep materials in, possibly have a small shop in so they can still have a footprint in Blaine and work on customers' vessels. Something else we just want to share is that we're really trying to future-proof this yard design, because this is kind of like a one-shot that we get to spend the money here in Blaine and do it right. So what we're really trying to do is make this a flexible design, so we don't know what the industry might have in 10 years or 15 years. So we're really trying to take some of that into consideration when we plan the uplands and spend this money. So let's see what I will tell you. The other thing that we're doing is as we work on this upland design, is we're trying to really be in sync with the cleanup project. So if there's an opportunity to get some of this upland work done, or take it into consideration when the cleanup's happening, so we're not digging things up twice or having to move things twice. And then once again, as Ben mentioned, we're looking at construction following the cleanup probably in 2028 at this point. So yeah, we're excited to get started. There's we've received a lot of positive comments from the boaters. When we look at the demographic, let's say north of Sandy Point, there's approximately 2,100 boats moored in marinas, from Birch Bay to Point Roberts to Semiahmoo to Blaine. When I started at Blaine, there were 4 boatyards in North Whatcom County, and we're down to none right now. So that means that all of those 2,100 boaters now need to bring their boats down to Bellingham. And we have some wonderful marine trades in Bellingham. But I think what we're hearing from customers is that for them to move their boats to Bellingham, it's a 35 to 40-mile trip for them on a day like today. You know, it's a little bouncy out in the straits, and so that impacts folks trying to get their boats hauled out, get their work done. So there's a lot of interest in having a local boatyard. So with that, I will move on. If you had any questions about that, I will move on to my next slide.
Andy, just for that timing there, did this slide originally say 2027?
We were hoping.
Yeah, so that's been kind of, that was our budget kind of priority.
Yeah, we were hoping 20, purchasing the 200-ton travel lift somewhere at the end of 2027, beginning of 2028, and being ready to start that spring.
And you'll hear Mike say that we're not ready yet to give up on a full court press. So we don't want this to be, we're not doing this now. We're still going to work on it. It's fairly new information we got yesterday, so.
Okay, so another project that we're working on up in Blaine is the Marine Drive bulkhead. That's about a 300-foot stretch of pile and timber bulkhead that's probably left over from the early 1900s when that section of the harbor was first created. So it's a unique piece of structure up in Blaine because not only does it provide protection for the harbor, but it also houses the City of Blaine's utilities and the road to the walking surface out to the end pier. So this, we're exceeding our useful life on this piece of structure, and it's actually limited road use out to the end pier. So we're working right now on permitting and design to replace that section of bulkhead. And I'm going to circle around to that here in just a second with the section when I talk about the Marine Drive Road as well. We anticipate bidding for construction in 2029, and we'd like to coordinate that with some of the work that's going to be happening at the CK Seafood cleanup site about the same time. So here we are at, let's bump that one forward, the Marine Drive roadway and access project. So the City of Blaine did some extensive work on Marine Drive up in Blaine in the early 2000s, and they stopped right about where Gate 3 is, where the new park is right across the street at the water reclamation facility. And so this project would look at continuing that work to improve Marine Drive from Gate 3 down to at least the corner of Sigurdsson, possibly tying it into that project out to the end pier. And this roadway just prioritizes the marine access to the marine industrial area. That section of road's pretty rough. I mean, it goes back to probably about the 50s, so it's a pretty rough section of road, and it doesn't have any accommodation right now for pedestrians that want to move from the city trail system at the park out to the end pier. So we'd be looking at doing some improvements all on that road. So being that it is a City of Blaine piece of infrastructure, we're working with the City of Blaine right now on the future management of that asset. And like I said, there's some port infrastructure in there going out to the end pier, and there's some city infrastructure in that whole stretch of road. So we're just coordinating with the City of Blaine right now on a license agreement with the City of Blaine that would allow the city to keep the right-of-way of that road, but would also allow the port to make improvements to that road while the city keeps control of their own infrastructure that's buried deep in the road. Well, I saw your hand go up, and I know what that means.
I was going like that. I was scratching my head because I'll have a question.
Okay. So anyways, that would allow the city to keep operational control of their infrastructure, and the port can make the improvements to that for the industrial area. And so we will be back to the commission once we have that licensing agreement put together and share that with you. Moving on. So the north and south piers are two leased piers in the Blaine industrial area. They're currently leased to to commercial seafood buying companies, and they're also utilized by our local shellfish grower, Drayton Harbor Oyster. These piers allow fishermen to come unload their catch at the dock, and critical piece of infrastructure for our seafood companies is having just that way to move the seafood across the dock. So if you were to show up at the end of the summer, you would see the dynamic activity going on those two piers. The work that we're looking at doing would be repairs to the decking, the piling, and the cross bracing to extend the life of those two piers. And we're looking, we've gone ahead and done the condition assessments back in 2025. We're working on the scoping right now with a design and engineering firm. Probably looking at least a year of design work, and then out in the future, 2028, 2029, getting some of this construction work done to bring those piers back up into full use. And the last thing we wanted to talk about this evening was the marine fuel facility at Blaine. So Port staff's been doing a bit of work here, and up until this evening, was hopeful that maybe we would be able to incorporate some of this into our new boatyard. We've taken a fueling facility into account as we design the new boatyard. I'm not sure that would be the place that it would end up, but any work that's taking place right now, the boatyard would be able to help accommodate that. There may be some other locations around the harbor that could be identified that would also be able to support this. So we are working on that currently, and we also in March we made a federal funding request for the I'm going to mess this up, congressional delegated spending that would be earmarked towards helping us support this project financially. And that is it. I'm open to some questions.
All right, questions or comments? Commissioner Briscoe?
I'll start with the road, I guess, first with the.
Tamara's telling me you need to speak into your microphone.
Okay. Start with the road with the city. So I've heard several things. One, the city was going to turn the road over to us, and now they're not. They're maintaining what. So the road from Starfish, corner of Starfish out, they still want to own that? Is that what's going on?
Well, I think there's two, and I think Kurt's here this evening. I think there was two paths that were being investigated. One was that the port, we would just take over the property, and the other was that there was an option for working on a licensing agreement with the city of Blaine, whereas we would be able to replace our bulkhead, and we still have some talks about what happens with that section of road from Starfish out to the end pier. What exactly? We have some preferred alternatives, but that's been quite a while since.
Well, the thing that puzzles me is I kind of heard through all that stuff that we're going to maintain everything and they're going to own it. And I mean, if they're going to, clarify for me then.
Yeah, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe so. I believe, and I'm looking at Alex too, because I know he's had some discussion, but I believe the intent here is for us to not absorb the cost of their utilities with still giving us access and control to do the other bulkhead work. Right. Anybody? Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's going to take care of the road then?
That's my question
Yeah,
as well.
who's gonna
Are we
take-
absorbing the opportunity to pay for the road construction?
Potentially.
Call that opportunity.
Yeah,
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
I tried to put that
Brian
in
can
my
address
slide.
it.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioners. Brian Gowner, Director of Environmental Planning Services. So this is what we're working on. It's not fully done yet. Andy's right there. But we do have a really good working draft with the City of Blaine on very similar to what we have down at C Street or Pine Street and Wharf Street, where we have an exclusive license. So the port will control it, access, maintenance, all of it. Is basically be everything but the utilities and the kind of the maintenance of their utilities and the easements that they have. So it's very similar to what we have, kind of to have control over when it's accessed, we can close it off, all that kind of stuff. So we would take on the maintenance of the surface, but we would have total control over it. So it's their right of way. We wouldn't take ownership, but essentially it's kind of like owning it. So C Street's very similar to that.
They wanted it back.
Yeah, well, they would have a term to it and all that. We didn't want to take on ownership of all the abutment on the other side. So it's worked really well at Wharf Street, where the entrance to the shipping terminal, that's still a right of way. and then C Street as well. And there's even statute that says they can't dedicate that over to us, so just the way it ends at a water body and all that. So it's really it works really well here in Bellingham, so it's a model that seems to work for the port and the city.
My next question is the riprap on the west side of the road. Who's taking care of that?
That's one of the points we're discussing right now. In our opinion, that should be maintained by the city. So that's because it protects their utilities, it protects that land that they'll still own. We're just controlling the surface and maintaining the surface. So
I get the maintenance part. I'm talking about who's going to rebuild it.
Well, yeah, on the abutment on the riprap side.
The riprap, because that's gone too.
Yeah, that should be the city.
So they're going to repair that, and then we're going to maintain it, or they're going to maintain it?
No, they'll maintain it and they'll repair it. So that's the one piece that we're still working on the details on. But our position is that is a piece that should be maintained, repaired and maintained by the city of Blaine. The surface and the bulkhead would be maintained by the port.
Okay, next question. Who's going to decide what's there for a road? If we're going to control it, maintain it, whatever, are we the ones that are going to say this is what's going in? Or are they going to say, no, this is what's going in?
There are some road standards that we have to work within that are adopted by the city under the Wharf District Master Plan. And then we also have a cross-section of the road that's been jointly approved by the city of Blaine and the Port Commission previously from basically Starfish out to the Jorgensen Pier. That's probably going to need to be revisited or confirmed by both those parties, but there are some cross sections that are already kind of agreed to. If we once we get to actually doing those, we'll bring those forward to the commission and make sure they're in line with what we want to see down there.
So I recall agreeing to some concepts.
Yep.
I don't recall agreeing to this is what it's going to be.
That's right.
Okay, so we're still in the concept mode with that. All right,
right.
very good.
Okay. All right, I just want to clarify that just those, it was getting down into the weeds there. I just want to make sure you're tracking what we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Andy, the North Pier and the South Pier, the decking, we did the North Pier decking. Is that got to be redone again? Because we made them put the plates down to run the water off because we went in and redid that decking. So
Yes, so that is correct. I think there's still, I think that I don't have the condition assessment, but I think there's still some work that needed, some of that's probably still got to come up to get underneath that.
Okay.
To work on the pile caps and the
So we got to pull the
stringers.
but we don't have to get rid of the timbers.
No,
Okay.
No, I think we can reuse a lot of that. And I think the South Pier was the pier that has the wear deck laid over the top of it. So that wear deck needs to come up.
Yeah, that's
Get underneath
shot.
get underneath the timbers.
We didn't do anything there.
Right.
Question on the piling replacement. Are we going to bag the pilings and concrete them, or are we going to pull the pilings and put new? What are they thinking?
Whatever you want to do.
Don't want to do anything. She said, I don't want to.
I know, right?
It's like this.
So I think at this point, we're just bringing on the design and engineering team, so we'll definitely forward that. We'll have that conversation with them on how we can do this affordably and get long life out of it.
Okay, next question. Regards to our breakwater entrance out there that was galvanized.
Right.
When we're having these docks assessed, are we having that looked at again too to see where we're at with that?
Yeah, we could. We did some extensive, magnetometer isn't the right word, but we did, metallizing, yes, that's it. But they used some equipment to look at the thickness. So we have an excellent database right now on how thick that material was the last time we did work.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, that was 2021.
Do you think we need, as long as we've got the people that are in the water, do we need to look again? Because they're going to be looking at the piling underwater, correct?
Yes.
So.
Actually, we've already done the condition assessment. That's all been done. All that work's been done.
Okay,
right.
so we're past that point.
Yeah.
Do we have something planned to look at that? Because I know we haven't put any anodes or anything on it, have we?
I can check with engineering on that.
Okay.
Absolutely can check with engineering on that.
Because we could fix all the stuff inside. If that falls down, we're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. We rely on that to protect
Steve won't be
us.
very happy either. Okay. So I guess the only thing I want to get on record, seeing as how we're on YouTube and lots of people watch this, is everything was spoken to in this marina here. That's part of the economy of the city of Blaine. And this is why I'm really angered that the people sitting down in Olympia, the ecology people in the ecology department, aren't willing to move the funding so that we can help the city of Blaine's economy 2 years sooner than we'll be able to help it by them putting this off. And it just baffles me. It's just one thing after another out of the capital of the state of Washington. Running jobs out, we're supposed to be promoting jobs, building the economy up. We're raising taxes, businesses are moving out. 24% of our businesses as of 2024 had said they were gonna move, cost was too high. We're trying to bring businesses in, they're doing that. We're trying to get the economy for Blaine back up and going. Once again, Ecology steps forward here at this point and says, no, you can't do this after we already have the money allocated for cleanup. It's cleanup. I don't care if it's over there or over here, it's cleanup. Every time we turn around, the folks in Olympia are throwing a speed bump in front of us that stops us from doing our job. And I'm getting damn tired of that happening. So, people, I hope you're listening. I hope you watch the meeting. You need to get your head out of the clouds and figure out what will help us put people to work and strengthen the economy in Whatcom County. I'm done for now.
Very good. Commissioner James, questions or comments?
Forgive my unfamiliarity with the budget from last year, I guess 2026 budget that was approved last year. So this funding that we are not receiving, it's for the cleanup portion of this only, not for everything that you've described today, just now.
That's correct.
But everything you've described is contingent on that cleanup happening first. It's a sequencing issue.
Yes.
So knowing that this would have to, we did not get the funding, there was this hope, it was denied. Is there a plan B? Or is it just waiting? Is waiting the only plan, is the plan B?
Yeah, I think there's two. Do you want me to jump in?
No, go for
and then,
it.
And
Yeah,
then
you're
you can
good.
jump in too. Yeah, there's the plan B, which is, well, I think there's three. I think there's A, B, and C.
Okay.
I think A is continue what I've already mentioned, basketball player, full court press on the legislative options, which Mike has been working on all day today. And then partnering with, I just was emailing with the city of Blaine. So that's kind of option A. Option B is what Ben mentioned in his presentation, which is in anticipation of this, we reapplied for funding for the Blaine project to be considered, and we would know in the next biennium, and we would know about that in the spring of 2027. And then option C is to, which is not our favorite, but which is to run an interim boatyard, not the way we would prefer to do it, but recognizing that there is a need in that area for these services. So I think those are the three options.
Okay, thank you.
And from the budget standpoint, we had contemplated debt for this particular project because we heard very clearly from the commission during the budget process last year to focus on get laser focused on some projects for completion. And so this was one of those projects. I get it?
I share that, the spirit behind that. And so and maybe Mike can speak to this, but what can we as elected officials, if anything, is there anything that we can do? Do you need us to reach out to elected leaders in Olympia?
Yeah, and I think that's what Mike will cover when he gets up to present.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I had one other question. The road, when we talk about the road, that also includes pedestrian access?
Right, yeah, I mentioned that there's that section of road it carries vehicles and carries people from the park out to the end pier. So there would be some sort of accommodation in there for conveying people along the edge there. Yep.
And the idea is to maintain some vehicle traffic.
Oh, yeah, I think that's,
Yeah.
So are we talking Sigurdsson out to the corner of Starfish out to the pier?
Yeah.
I think that's what the preferred, there was a couple concepts that were worked on back and forth.
Yeah, we've talked about, is it just, temporary access or use permitted access, or is it
right?
All the time access is the most expensive, obviously,
Right.
and so all those others are more affordable or somewhat more affordable options.
Yeah, those are the concepts that would be coming back forward.
Yeah, I thought
For
at a
consideration.
minimum, we were talking about emergency
Accessibility,
access,
yeah.
service access, and handicap access.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I think we're all sharing the frustration here, and I think a lot of the frustration comes from, we've been working diligently on this project for several years, and it takes so long to get the environmental kind of study done, to understand the pollutants, to really tee up the consent decree process. That's a multi-year process. I mean, it's been going on as long as I've been here. And then, these other pieces that we put in place that are all dependent on the cleanup to occur, it feels extra difficult because there's been so much work that's led up to it, and we've been expecting this next section to really take off and anticipating it to move. So we're here to help and looking forward to hear what Mike says.
It's been 11 years, Mr. Shepard.
Yeah.
Longer than I've been on here.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. And I think you're sensing all of our kind of deflated. I'm glad, Steve, you're in the office or in the room today just to hear our frustration. And we're not giving up, but we're just continuing to work. We're playing the long game on it, and I know it's been a long time. And I really commend the staff's focus on this and attention to it. It truly was all the divisions working on it. So we're going to get there. It's going to take us a minute.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Hey, where's your flak vest?
We're the wrong color. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mike Hogan, Public Affairs Administrator. I hope you didn't bring any fruit to throw at me. We all share the frustration. Really horrible news. I just want to acknowledge what a great project that it is in Blaine when we talk about the DIY boatyard and just having conversations with the marine trades community up there and people ready to get to work. I think we have a terrific plan and understand how complicated it is to get these projects to the finish line and get through there's so many things that can delay these projects, from the permitting process, from putting the funding that's necessary in place. And that's exactly why it's important for us to be able to reprogram funds between different cleanup sites. There's, for example, Salish Landing Park is a terrific example of a project that wouldn't be happening right now. The largest park in Bellingham, 3 times the size of Boulevard Park, huge cleanup, would not be happening if we weren't allowed to reprogram funds. Putting these projects together is so complicated and requires funding from so many different sources. That project was $2.3 million short. The port was able to support that city project, reprogram funds from Whatcom Waterway to allow that project to go. If that had not happened, that project wouldn't have happened. It would have been delayed by years. They would have lost the bonding that they put in place to support that project. It would have gone away. So reprogramming funds is a really, really important tool. And Commissioner James, you're right. We were down talking to the legislators about it earlier this session. The I&J Waterway is another great example. You saw the cranes working on that project, a $24 million cleanup project by the port. That project would not have happened if we weren't able to reprogram funds. The chlor-alkali site at the GP site is another great example. Here's a project we were allowed to reprogram funds. We have a $17.9 million federal rail grant that would go away if we weren't able to reprogram funds. So being able to reprogram funds, and it's not just being able to, if we have a grant, we want to reprogram funds. It's because, these projects, permits happen, agencies getting through the ecology's cleanup process. The agencies will say, we want another eelgrass survey, we need more data. These projects take forever to get through. I think the average for an in-water sediment site is 14 years to get through the cleanup process. So there's all sorts of reasons they don't happen according to a specific schedule that you can predict. And so being able to have a little bit of flexibility is really, really important. And so, unfortunately, this is the first time that it didn't happen, and it was for Blaine. It's a terrific project. It's a shovel-ready project. We're ready to go to construction this fall. It is, means so much to the waterfront up in Blaine. The port has committed millions and millions of dollars that it's not spending on other things that are being committed at the local level to that project. So there is, when we go through and submit for remedial action grant requests, there is as Ben mentioned, a ranking procedure that goes through. They have to rank these projects somehow, but the Westman site up in Blaine is not that far behind the other sites. So moving it in is reasonable. There's precedent for it, so I have no idea why they didn't do it. But we're going to do everything we can to try to make sure that we can, understanding that we are on a tight timeline. So what that's going to look like is, number one, rallying our stakeholders. We've got Working Waterfront Coalition. We have Blaine City Council. We have, this isn't just a port issue. This is Port, City of Bellingham, Whatcom County, right? We moved money to support Salish Landing Park for the City of Bellingham, so we need to get unified in our voices at the local level. We need to take that voice to our delegation, to the legislatures. We need to go to ecology, speak to those folks, and all the way up to the head of the agency. And we also need to talk to the government's office. The legislature and the government office have legislative oversight, or oversight over the legislature. So we need to take this message to those folks and keep our fingers crossed, and it's all we can do. I know it's not the answer that we want to hear, but we'll be bringing our best case forward about the precedents that have been set, how this impacts us, why it's so impactful for us, why we need to do it. And if we don't do it now, we're talking years and years and years of delays. So we're talking, it's not good for the environment, it's not good for the jobs, it's not good for anybody. And the irony is if that money doesn't get moved to be able to spend this year and get used to Blaine, what happens is it needs to get reappropriated by the legislature. And so anytime the legislature sees money in MOTCA that needs to get reappropriated because it wasn't spent, they say, oh, well, I guess they don't need money for MOTCA anymore. So then they sweep it and they use it for something else. So it's ridiculous. And there's thousands of cleanup sites in the state of Washington that still need to get cleaned up. So having this flexibility to move and having a committed local agency like the port and like the city and like the county that are moving these sites through the process, we need a stronger partnership, and we can't let a technicality stop this process from happening, because it's not good for us, and it's not good for the state, and it's not good for cleanup sites. So,
Okay, Mike, maybe for the folks that are watching and the folks in the audience, a lot of people don't understand the MOTCA funding, where it comes from. This isn't our tax dollars that goes to the state. This isn't state's money. So would you explain where it comes from and cut the acronym and give the full name, please?
Yeah, so in 1988, the voters passed an initiative called the Model Toxics Control Act. And that was an initiative by the citizens of Washington saying cleaning up contaminated sites is a huge priority. There's thousands of sites throughout the state, and so they passed a law called the MOTCA, Model Toxics Control Act, which said we're going to put a tax on the import of hazardous substances, and we're going to clean up these contaminated sites. And so since that time, what's happened is, we have a terrific cleanup program in Washington, but the money that the voters said we want to do for cleanup a lot of times has been taken by the legislature and used for other things or other programs that aren't necessarily cleanup. So each year in Olympia, we need to fight, and we need to say, hey, look, no, the voters passed this specifically to clean up contaminated sites. And, last time we checked, all the sites haven't been cleaned up yet, so we're not taking the money and using it for other things. We're using it to clean up contaminated sites. And you would think it would be an easy argument to win, but it's not, So we are down there every session fighting for those funds, talking about the great success we have, the great need we have, and the thousands of sites that still need to be cleaned up throughout the state of Washington.
And that money comes through oil, most of it comes from the oil passing through our county, our state, so to speak.
Correct.
And what we've seen in the past, what we saw early on, is when a state has a shortfall and can't meet their budget, which I don't know why the state can't keep their budget. We seem to be able to keep ours here at the Port of Bellingham. It's like, here's this pot of money, it's a Market Control Act, and here's the state's pot of money over here, and theirs is all gone because they did stupid things with it. This is still over here trying to clean up all the messes. So they take this hand, they go over here and take it out of here and put it over here so they look good. It's exactly what they do. It's just like this. And we've been fighting it for 9, 10 years. And they just, it's like this pile of money, and their kids down there like in a candy store, they can't keep their damn hands off it. And I think that's why we're not getting the money, is because they need money to go somewhere else, and they've dipped enough over here that they have to take the money that's appropriated for us to go elsewhere.
Well, yeah, last session they swept $70 million out of Matka for other things. In this case, we have money that's sitting for Whatcom Waterway. That site's, we're still working through the permitting process.
But it's in their account, not ours.
But there's
You get my drift? It's in their account, not ours, so they're doing what they want with it because they need it elsewhere.
Right, so, anyway, there's a, yeah.
Sorry, Mike, didn't mean to get you off track.
So, at any rate, Commissioner James, yes, I think having as electeds, speaking to electeds to make sure that they understand how important that is to us. I'll be sending out kind of a one-pager on, what exactly the issue is with some key kind of message points and what we need them to do. And, we're going to continue to fight the good fight as long as I'm here. So we'll keep you updated on the conversations and rallying the stakeholders and doing everything we can, because it's, this is, we've got critical needs for our economy and our environment, and the bureaucrats are making it awful hard to do that, so.
Well, thank you, and please send me the talking points. I'm going to Olympia tomorrow. I'm happy to go knock on some doors.
Okay, I'll send them to you tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. And for context, I think what we see, there are other kind of federal resources for cleanups, like the Superfund site, but the Superfund fund. But we're able to do this work in such a faster process in Washington State because we have this dedicated funding source, and we are able to really be effective and often leverage those cleanups for future economic benefits. And so that's the beauty of this work, is it's able to really have such a significant impact after the cleanup, already after that first cleanup occurs. It's the cleanup of the toxins is important, and then what happens after that is also important because we're able to redevelop land and put things back into productive use.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have none. We are ready to move on to our action items.
Motion to authorize the executive director to execute a personal services agreement with Mead and Hunt for $162,838 for planning activities at the Airport International Park.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Teresa Tushek, planner with Environmental and Planning Services. We are requesting, for this action item, I will be presenting a contract request to support airport planning activities. The action requested today is for the Commission to authorize the Executive Director to enter into a personal services agreement with Mead and Hunt to support a Community Economic Revitalization Board grant, which I'll refer to as CURB, is the acronym, administered by the Washington State Department of Commerce. This grant is designed to support planning activities to develop a conceptual master plan and implementation strategy for the airport's industrial area. This project will result in a final strategic plan designed to identify industrial and commercial development opportunities near the airport, support aviation, aerospace, logistics, and advanced manufacturing industries, increase economic development and job creation, create a long-term implementation roadmap for permitting and land use, and align development with regional economic goals and airport operations. So this project came from a commission study that was done in 2025, focusing on the airport industrial area. And an outcome of the session at that time was identifying the need for an additional analysis and planning to support the development of airport properties, including a business development and recruitment plan and broader industrial park visioning efforts. Port staff developed a project proposal to meet this need, applying to the CURB, the Community Economic Revitalization Board, site readiness grants. And in January of this year, CURB announced that the port would be awarded a $100,000 grant to support the site readiness plan, grant for this plan. This was presented to the Board of Commissioners for acceptance to accept this grant in February of this year, in which the board authorized the executive director to execute a grant agreement with CURB, acknowledging the $55,000 project required match. So in April, after we got some of the scope of work fleshed a bit out, the port issued a RFP, a request for proposals, for the Bellingham International Airport Industrial Business Development and Action Plan. And following a competitive procurement process, the port staff selected Mead & Hunt as the consulting firm to support the project team in conducting planning activities aligned with the CURB site readiness requirements. This project is broken into 3 phases. This work includes, but is not limited to, initiating a business development and recruitment plan to guide infrastructure and capital investment decisions, confirming zoning and comprehensive plan alignment, assessing environmental review and permitting feasibility, evaluating transportation and utility infrastructure capacity, and identifying gaps to position the site for near-term development. This effort will also identify target markets and key industries, optimizing foreign trade zone opportunities, support marketing, development, and regional business expansion efforts. The financial impact of this project. The total project cost is scoped at $162,838, compared to the original estimate of $155,000. Following the project scoping meeting and further discussion of the port's objectives for this work, the scope was refined to include additional market assessment, land development opportunity analysis, and expanded stakeholder engagement. These additions are intended to support a robust Phase 1 workshop and including stakeholder interview process, as well as a Phase 2 open house. The difference between the two is about $7.3 thousand, which will come from existing operating budgets. This contract supports the Bellingham International Airport Industrial Business Development and Action Plan, supports the port's 2026 key corporate goal number 4, strategically manage and grow Bellingham's International Airport. That is an overview of this project request and for the contract. If there are any questions regarding this project or contract, there are port staff available, as well as Jed Holmes, consultant with Mead & Hunt, to answer any specific questions.
Very good. Questions or comments, Commissioner James?
Could you go back a few slides? This one. So after each phase, we have an opportunity, we as the commission have an opportunity to provide input or comments. It said comments, or is that just from staff?
I would like to ask Tyler if he's here, but I would imagine staff in coordination with the commission, but he can speak to this better.
Yeah, Tyler Schroeder, Economic Development Director. I've been working with Tara and Matt, the airport director, and staff on the contract associated with it. In most situations, we would be providing input back as a staff. There are 2 different opportunities to get stakeholder engagement as well. And so I do think we can plan in a couple of commission updates, get some feedback, and then roll that back into the consultant's work as that moves forward.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure, this will be my first time working with one of these types of projects, and so just want to make sure that what we're presented with at the end is fully vetted by all of the input. And so then my other comment about stakeholder engagement is just wanting to make sure that that you can lean on us for getting responses from people that we're reaching out to for input. I think just some feedback that I've heard from past projects like this is that people don't know that they were reached out to. People are sort of miss that opportunity. So if there's a way that we as the commission can help follow up with folks so that they know that we're wanting their input, I'm happy to do that work.
Yeah, no, that's great. And at the 2025 kind of Port Commission discussion, there was a lot of talk about stakeholder feedback, especially around some current tenants and general aviation and companies in the area of the airport. And so we have identified a strategy to reach out to them. We have contacts associated with them. And then we also have identified kind of the City of Bellingham, Lemmy Nation, the City of Ferndale, and a few other larger stakeholders. And so we can get that list prepared, work with Mead and Hunt to really kind of establish a way to have direct contact. And then I hear you loud and clear. If we need some help, we'll come ask for some help.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Briscoe?
Not good. All right. Been through a couple of these. I'm okay, I think.
Yeah. Do we have some ideas about potential stakeholders? I mean, I think we have a good grasp on who some of our existing stakeholders, existing tenants, existing kind of partners here in Whatcom County. But from my perspective, this is not just about activating people who are already doing business here. We're wanting to reach out to some of these industry partners that may be operating in Moses Lake, maybe operating in the aviation cluster at Everett. Are we going to be making sure to reach out to some of those aviation-specific business clusters that exist in the state?
Yeah, if I can jump in, Tyler, I believe this is the expertise that Mead and Hunt specifically brings, is their access to that industry.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and just kind of two specifics, and Tiffany's accurate. Like that's why Mead and Hunt kind of came and rose to the top. But they've kind of identified to interview representatives from the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance, which is a regional alliance of companies and interests associated with aerospace, and then also the Aerospace Industries of Canada. Kind of in between this time frame, we've also come aware that there's a lot of startup companies kind of utilizing the Abbotsford airport. And if there's some of those companies that need an American footprint, we're going to have some strategies associated with that to see if that can be a business recruitment as well.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Well, that's what I was hoping, so great. Well, thank you. I love seeing that first slide where you had that, this conversation really started with, one more. Not first slide, but first slide that connected with me was that, this came out of one of our work sessions, and it just drives home the importance of those work sessions that we've been having, how actionable they are, what a great opportunity they are to hear and work collaboratively with some of our partners, and just to think creatively about what are our opportunities going into the future. More than ever, given some of our challenges with domestic air service, it just accentuates the need for us to be delivering a robust plan for our airport to take advantage of its economic potential, especially as we see a more challenging environment around commercial air service today.
Yeah, Commissioner, thanks for pointing that out. I think this goes right along with a number of the planning sessions where we're taking a really intentional programming rather than the next person that steps through our door. We're giving the commission the opportunity to get the full picture of what potential industry is for there. So it's good work on this one.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
I have none.
Go ahead.
Motion to authorize the executive director to execute a personal services agreement with Mead and Hunt for $162,838 for planning activities at the Airport Industrial Park.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well.
Motion to approve resolution number 1432, a resolution advancing community protection and civil rights at Port of Bellingham facilities restricting the use of Port of Bellingham property for civil immigration enforcement purposes and activities.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I don't have any slides for you today. Excuse me. Holly Stafford, Port General Counsel, here to talk about what we're calling the ice-free zone resolution. When we last spoke with the Commission about this matter at the May 26th Commission meeting, Director of Aviation Matt Rodriguez and I discussed some issues and kind of problematic approaches to if the port were to attempt to restrict Customs and Border Patrol or Protection, CBP, operations, either in the context of CBP's existing leases, at least with the port, and on port property more generally. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but just briefly, the things that we went over, the port cannot restrict CBP operations outside of the property that it leases from the port. There are no grounds to evict CBP from its leasehold with the port. A general policy governing all port leases would not work due to some constitutional provisions. We can't interfere with federal government operations. We've got to deal with the Surplus Property Act, which entitles the federal government to use the landing area at BLI. And we have FAA grant assurances to contend with. So there can be no economic discrimination, and the port must make all facilities developed with federal assistance for use by government aircraft. So that's kind of the background. Included was a discussion of a potentially narrowly focused resolution limiting the use of port property for civil immigration enforcement. And so that presentation at the last meeting concluded with direction from the Commission to bring a resolution forward for consideration that was based in part on the Port of Seattle Order 2026-03, which has been referenced here today, and the Commission all has a copy of that. So the draft resolution that you have before you today in your agenda packet is based on that Port of Seattle resolution. It's also been informed by other resolutions and orders that have been adopted by other jurisdictions and that have either sustained legal challenge or have not yet experienced legal challenge, and then some additional Port of Bellingham specific issues as well. So what the Port of Bellingham resolution says is it acknowledges the rights of individuals in Whatcom County to access port facilities without interference from unlawful civil immigration enforcement. Port property shall not be used for civil immigration detention facilities or civil immigration enforcement support facilities. New leases and agreements shall not authorize civil immigration detention facilities or support facilities at port property. And no civil immigration enforcement should occur without a lawful judicial warrant in non-public port-owned spaces. Additionally, the port's executive director is authorized to develop signage, trainings, procedure, guidance, et cetera, to implement this resolution. And the resolution is not to be construed to conflict with federal or state law or to restrict the execution of lawful court orders, judicial warrants, or enforcement of criminal law. It also shall not interfere or violate previously entered agreements, and that would include any grant assurances that the port has entered into for the airport. It also contains a severance provision. So if any portion of the resolution is found to be unlawful, it can be severed out and the rest of the resolution can stay intact. The main differences between the port's resolution and the Port of Seattle's resolution is that the one before you today, it contains broader examples of civil immigration enforcement facilities than those listed in the Port of Seattle's. It references that it's not intended to conflict with the FAA grant assurances. It does not contain a sunset provision, so the Port of Seattle version, it expires in a certain amount of time. This one does not. Actual affirmative action would need to be taken by the Commission. It does not include a training requirement, employee response protocols, or regional coordination, which has been brought up tonight. You probably are asking why. What we're trying to do is draw a bright line in between policy and governance of the Commission and the executive director and staff's management of the port. And to that end, the executive director of the port has already implemented a number of these initiatives at the staff level before this resolution has even been adopted by the commission. We also do not want a requirement that the port undertake specific actions that are unbudgeted at this time. So if it's in a resolution, it's a shall, it's a must. You are required to do it. If instead the direction is that the executive director is authorized through the delegation of authority in this resolution, there's a little bit more flexibility. That flexibility, I think, is also of benefit to the port because I think you need to be nimble in this current environment. We've all seen what's happened historically with what was called the Duffy Directive at first. I think Matt's probably very familiar with the Duffy Directive, and that was placing restrictions on grant funds. So if there was any kind of lack of cooperation with immigration enforcement, then an entity would not be able to receive grant funds. There's now a permanent injunction that's no longer allowed to be tied to grants, but as of, I think it was May 29th, the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, is now formally initiated some rulemaking process to change the grant rulemaking rules, if you will, and to make changes in the Code of Federal Regulations. So the executive orders have been struck down at the court level. Now the administration is trying a different approach, and what this new the new CFRs are going to say, or potentially going to say, is that federal appointees must advance the president's policy priorities. We don't know exactly how that's going to play out, if that rulemaking will be in effect. But the point is, if we put something strict in the resolution that requires something like know your rights, then in a sense the port is kind of sticking its head up a little bit higher than perhaps it means to, whereas if you delegate that authority to your executive director, those things can still occur, but if you end up with rulemaking that could harm the port, the ED can be nimble enough to change what the trainings are or the opportunities are for tenants, et cetera. So that's the rationale for not having it be kind of mirroring the Port of Seattle's on all of those terms. So with that, I open it up to the commission for any questions you might have for me and hopefully discussion amongst yourselves about this resolution.
Okay, very good.
Just one note, Commissioner. Everybody keeps looking for Matt. He is currently working hard for the port in Chicago for air service development.
Okay, I did look for him.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner James, questions or comments?
Yeah, I have been thinking about this resolution since the last time we met and doing some research. I found a really helpful website. It's the American Immigration Council, and I recommend anyone who has the time and the interest to check it out. They have tools where you can filter by state and information about immigrants in your state. So I would like to read this because it relates to our local economy and workforce. Washington, one of the major food-producing states in the nation, relies heavily on its large immigrant population. While 15.6% of the state's residents and 19.8% of its labor force are foreign-born, immigrants make up 49.1% of the agriculture workforce in the state. They also account for 22.6% of entrepreneurs, 32.8% of STEM workers, and 33.2% of health aides in the state. As neighbors, business owners, taxpayers, and workers, immigrants are an integral part of Washington's diverse and thriving communities and make extensive contributions that benefit all. And if you want to check out that website, there's really great data about their contribution to federal, local, and state taxes and our workforce. I do have a question about leases and the difference between existing leases, new leases, and then where a renewal of a lease would fall as far as this resolution applying to those three situations.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it wouldn't impact existing leases, it would impact new leases, and then if you have a lease renewal, that is going to depend on that actual renewal. So if it is something that is being renewed because the tenant has the right to renew simply by providing notice, there's no change in rent, there's no market rate adjustment, no change in the footprint, nothing like that, no actual amendment to the lease, then this will also apply to that. I think in order for it to apply to even an amended lease, there would need to be an acknowledgement of that, because typically when you have a lease renewal, you have the lease, right, which is a contract. We went over this a couple weeks ago. You'd have to have a meeting of the minds to modify that. And because a lessee has not agreed to the terms of this resolution at the time they initially entered into the lease, they would have to agree kind of going forward. So it would need to be part of an amendment. So for the most part, I would say that those renewed leases are most likely going to fall into that category of existing leases.
So is there language that can be added to this so that a lease renewal sort of forces this to be considered as part of the next lease?
Not exactly. That was one of the things that we went over, that Matt and I went over at the last meeting. You really couldn't implement essentially a port-wide policy that would then impact, really what we're talking about is CBP. We're not really concerned about anyone else creating these detention facilities or using port property for civil immigration enforcement. So we're really looking at probably that one CBP lease that's over at the airport. And you really wouldn't be able to create a uniform policy across the port, because really it would only be impacting that one tenant, and we can't do that because of sovereign immunity, intergovernmental immunity, things like that. So you're kind of stuck with that existing lease the way it's written. This is intended to be 100% proscriptive looking forward.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, this is the most robust we can do?
This is the most robust you can do without getting sued tomorrow.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's why we pay her.
I wanted to bring up the Port of Seattle resolution, because I am somebody that has taken a lot of inspiration from looking at our neighboring ports, Port of Seattle, Port of Portland. And, we have the saying, you've seen one port, you've seen one port. My take on this is that what we're trying to create here is what works for Whatcom County. And the inspiration that we can, I'm glad that inspiration was there, but it's not our job to mimic them exactly. We have to work with what works for our county and then what works for the structure of this port. So I am looking at the request for this specific training directive, and I went back to so for those who aren't familiar, at the beginning of the year, the commission approved the 1106 delegation of authority, and that's basically taking our full power of the port, and delegating the operational aspects of that to the executive director. And so there is a section in the 1106 that talks about the policy governing staff and employee administration, and part of what we have delegated is the training of personnel. So my understanding of the situation is that the way that we have described authorizing the executive, reaffirming authorizing our executive director to conduct those trainings is the appropriate, it's the appropriate way to do it based on our 1106. And, talking with Tiffany, it sounds like a lot of these trainings have started. I think that, or have been done, that work has already been done. We all communicate on a regular basis about the training needs, and I am very accessible to the community as far as taking meetings, taking input, and then bringing that back to the staff. So that's just my take on this, is that the resolution as written is the right way to approach that.
Okay, very good.
I'm sorry, the last part, would you say that again?
The way that the resolution has been written is the correct way, that we are not overstepping our governance role and I'm a small business owner. I'm a manager. I am a manager, and I am actually like a micromanager. So I have had to work really hard in understanding and being respectful of this boundary. And I think that it is our role to authorize and support, and then bring the community feedback back to the executive director. But Tiffany has my full support in being able to implement the vision of the commission and the will of the people that we are hearing directly from you.
Okay. So, in some of the comments this evening that were given earlier, you know, this is a nonpartisan office, as well as the council and city councils, county council, city councils are nonpartisan. And I got the little bit of the feeling tonight that we're starting down a political road with this. And I'm not into bringing politics to this chamber. It's not what we're about, it's not what we do. There's 250 to 300,000 people out there that the three of us represent with their public property. And I've heard from about 15 or 20. My family's been in farming for 70 years, one half of it. I did some research over our time off here and talking with my cousins, and they talked with other folks, and there's really only one incident that stands out on the Barbie farm, or the one gentleman being secured. I am definitely not going to start telling our tenants how to run their businesses. We never have, and we're not going. It's not our policy. It's not what we do. We help those folks make money and grow stronger. That's what we do. And if those folks want to do training, they can do training. That's up to them. We can recommend it, but I'm not going to tell them that they have to do that. It's not going to happen from this commissioner. We're getting too far in the weeds with their personal business, and that's not what we do. We lease property so they can operate their businesses, and we help them when they need help. And times are tough, like they were in COVID and so on, and we make sure that those businesses can struggle through and then get stronger when things pass. You know, as far as training people to intercede, or so whatever you want to call it, interject themselves into a situation between a federal agent and someone who they're saying, or they're apprehending, you know, 911. Call somebody that knows how to deal with it. I mean, that's the right thing to do. That's what we've been taught our whole lives. If you need help, you call for a police officer, right? I'm not going to run over and tell a federal agent you can't do that. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. It never has. You know, we seem to bring in a lot of the national stuff to our county with things we say that are going on. Once again, this seems to be a special interest situation that's got some politics involved, and I'm not very comfortable with that. And once again, I heard that we tried to write something for the folks, and it's not good enough. It's got to be better. They want us to stick our neck out on the line with the federal people and get sued. I'm not going there with that either. So maybe we need to look at this situation a little further, because as it stands right now, I'm not in favor of putting anything forward. If we haven't done good enough with what we're doing, then we're voting on something that's not acceptable. So with that being said, I just as soon table this and we do some more looking into things and some more discussing amongst us and see if there's a better resolution to come up with or not. But I certainly don't feel like I've got enough facts after doing a little bit of my own checking within the county, and I think that things may be a little bit blown out of proportion, and I'm not prepared to put something in place that, to start with, I don't know if it's necessary in this part of our county, and I don't know that it's our business to do that. Have we had any incidents on port property with ICE?
I can't speak for the tenants.
No, I'm just
So-
for port.
Yeah, I'm
Our port
unaware.
staff, our port staff. Any idea, have we heard any soundings from any of our tenants having issues?
I have not heard from tenants regarding those issues.
How many ports statewide have a resolution to this degree? Do we know?
No, we don't know. We haven't done a survey. I suspect it's Port of Seattle, followed by probably Port of Bellingham. I don't know that any other ports
Yeah.
do have one.
Yeah. So at this time, I'd ask that we table this until we get a little more information on what's going on. I'm not real big on running out the door and getting my feet jerked out from under me.
And-
Certainly not enthused about getting ourselves in trouble. So, and that's where we're gonna go if we go any further than what's been said here. And we've been asked to amend this by the public, and I don't wanna go there. I think we need to table this and do some more internal work with it on staff, maybe some external work in the county with people and see what's really going on. I don't think we're fully ready to do this.
And just a clarifying question. If the community was in support of it as written, that would change your perspective?
No, I don't feel I have enough information to even go forward with
Okay.
this.
If I could just say, just from a timing perspective, it would be helpful to understand the commission's, kind of where this falls in the workflow, because as you all know, we go to one meeting for the rest of the summer. So I would anticipate that the work on this wouldn't happen until later in the fall or early winter.
My request still stands.
Okay. Well, I'll just address a couple of the pieces. Hearing the request for training, I think I prefer the language that the executive is able to provide training. And part of my rationale is I've seen kind of the unfunded training requirements come into place. And this happens for a lot of different people. Last year, every employee at Western had to do 8 hours of unfunded training. And, it was a requirement that came through. It didn't come with any funding attached, and we had to participate in all of this training. Training's good. It's challenging for people's, workflow and their kind of experience at work when that doesn't come with any compensation. And so I guess I'm just hesitant to particularly ask our tenants to do any training that's going to be necessarily not come with funding or feeling like we might be overstepping our relationship with our tenants that we already have. So that part creates some discomfort for me. I have more comfort with our ability to provide training and make training available. And so I don't know if it would be, if it's useful to put any language in that states we will make training available as requested, or we can enable training as requested by staff or our partners. But I think that's something we would already do, because we make resources available when asked. I think that's something that's part of our kind of our ethos here. And so I guess that's a question to you, Tiffany, if you feel like you need any more specific language to be able to provide the training that staff or others connected with our organization would need.
Thanks for asking that question. And what I believe in our ethos or our culture is we have been and were responsive to at least staff requests. We haven't had tenant requests, so I'm not not going to speak to that, but to staff requests regarding this specific topic, and we immediately came out with information to provide with our people manager. So I think we have a proven record of responsiveness when people feel they need additional training for their work here at the port.
Yeah.
And I'm confident in that.
Yeah. I feel like this initiative is the right pathway forward. I think it's timely. I think it's something that we need in our community. I think we should be responsive to creating a safe environment. And I think it has both a balance of some things that are symbolic, and I think we had a little bit of conversation about the, the value of symbolic action. I think there is, and also some clear guidelines on what we expect moving into the future. And so I do think that this is the right pathway forward. I think that this is something where we're able to show local leadership and being responsive to requests from our community. And I really think that it's not just about keeping people safe, it's also about protecting our economy here. I think as we protect workers, as we protect community members, as we protect those businesses that operate, we're enabling their economic success. So I guess that comes to a question. I would like it if we all felt comfortable moving forward with this. I do think it's important for our organization, and if we are to move forward with keeping the resolution as is that something that you would feel comfortable voting today?
Question for Holly. With our leases, there's a question of our leases, new leases, and existing leases when they turn over, right?
There was a question.
The wording in this resolution is going to affect those?
No, the renewals, it won't affect. Existing leases, no. But there should be no new leases for port property with regard to detention facilities or civil immigration enforcement support facilities.
So how does that affect this, so to speak, if federal government wants to come and rent or, extend a lease or roll a lease over? We're right back in the same boat we're in. We can't tell them what to do, right? So what if we pass this, it leaves us with, okay, you can't have a lease. Is that where we're left if we pass this resolution?
If you're looking at a new lease, so we've got the existing CBP lease out at the airport. I think that's the lease that a lot of people have been asking about and talking about. That will not be touched by this. They have some options to renew, they being CBP, I want to say through maybe 2033, something like that. And so that is untouched. The use provision in that is, it's not defined, really. It's whatever use they want to use that property for. So this resolution will not touch that. But to address people's concerns, there's a zoning issue. So you've got the lease, but then you also have the concerns about zoning out at the airport and what can and can't be constructed or done out there. If they come to the port with a new lease, wanting to lease property, not using the airport, not using the landing surface, if you will, right, because you've got some other legal restraints on that. But if they want to lease other property that belongs to the port or is kind of adjacent to the airport, it's a business decision of the port. You'd have this resolution so that staff could rely on that to say, actually, it's a port policy that we're not going to enter into this agreement if that's what the use is going to be.
Outside of the airport property.
Yeah.
And for me, I think this is going to kind of emphasize a decision we would already make. I don't see our staff coming to us with, hey, we got this proposal for a detention facility. We've got this great idea. I think this would really fit our community values to site this. Commission, go for it.
I don't think we would go there. That's why
I don't think that's not the pathway our staff is going to take us on.
Yeah.
And so
one of the things that bothers me is, okay, we take away our right to make a choice of something. We're not going to do something stupid like that. We haven't in the past, and we're not going to. Now we're putting a piece of paper out there that says we don't have to make a decision. We're going to let this piece of paper do it for us. I have other issues with, we have more than just those guys that are federal money coming in. We've got the Coast Guard, we've got other things here, and they're all tied together. And I really don't want to get something going that we have a decision over in the first place, as you just spoke to, and tee off the rest of the guys on the other side of the fence so we don't have them. This isn't just about the airport. We have many federal leases, okay, they're all tied to the same pool of money. They're all tied to the same pool of people. And if we're, like I said before, this piece of paper really doesn't do anything. The decisions are all gonna be made right here. If we don't want them doing something, they're not gonna do it to a certain degree. And a new lease comes up, if somebody comes and says, we wanna build it, we're not gonna let them do that. So why do we even need this if we've got the governance right here to do the right thing? That's one of my points.
I was gonna just mention on the, if you've seen One Port, you've seen One Port. I've just had informal, and this is totally anecdotal, conversations with the Port of Everett, and I'm not sure who their legal counsel is. But they steer fairly clear of this kind of action and bring it forward to commission for public comment when it comes forward, for just because of the associated risks of what adopting this is. So if that's helpful at all.
You know, I think that you and I, Commissioner Briscoe, are and were on the same page about performative governance and doing something that is not enforceable. And so, you know, I did take the time to connect with folks, and I'm hearing from them that putting this resolution forward is meaningful just that it exists. So, you know, the symbolism of defining what we know we would already do in this resolution does have meaning to the community. So for me, that makes me feel comfortable in moving forward. I think that we do, you know, eyes wide open about what this is and isn't doing. But I hear you.
No, I'm still asking that we table this so we can talk about it more and figure it out more, because I'm not comfortable. There's associated risks, as Tiffany spoke to. I don't think we've looked at all the things. I don't think we've looked at all the things that can be detrimental to our business as a port here if we just pass a piece of paper to pass it as a symbol. I mean, we're elected officials. We're supposed to do the right thing. I don't need a piece of paper to do the right thing, okay? I don't need a piece of paper to make a symbol that I will do the right thing. I'm right here. I'll do the right thing when it's needed. So in looking out for the port's best interests, I would like to table this, and that's where I'm going to stay on it. Okay. Or vote no, one of the two.
Okay. Holly, do you believe we have sufficiently looked at the risks with, as far as putting any of our existing kind of obligations, funding or relationships with this resolution?
I think so. I do. I wouldn't have put something before the commission that I thought was going to put you in legal risk. As any one of you who have heard from me, I like to have, you know, if I could put it on my address on my email, it would say paid paranoid. So I feel like we've looked at the risks. To Commissioner Briscoe's point, we don't know what future risks are down the road. I can say that I did call the general counsel for the Port of Seattle because there was the fact that they had a sunset provision was perplexing to me, and I wanted to understand his rationale for that. And when we got to talking, I said, have you heard anything from anyone at the federal government or anyone else? And they haven't heard boo. And this was adopted, their version with the training requirements and everything else was adopted in March. So granted, it can take a while for the federal government to take action. But I think the fact that we have the severability provision in there explicitly, and we've called out the FAA grant assurances in particular, which was one of Matt's concerns, et cetera. And it says it's not going to conflict. I mean, really my bigger issue is when I bring things before you, I always go, well, where is the teeth? What are we going to do about it? So we can put whatever we want on paper, but if it's violated, what do we do? Is there a carrot or is there a stick? How do we navigate through this? And to Commissioner Briscoe's point, I feel like this is more of that kind of situation, is you've got a resolution, but you don't really have any leverage for enforceability on that. You know, we still can't enforce against the federal government, for example. So that's why I feel like there's pretty minimal legal risk for the port, because you can cut out any portion that's a problem. And we're not specifically directing this type of training or any kind of unfunded mandates, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that's a piece our partners at the federal government also clearly understand. I think they have a pretty good handle on the supremacy clause. And they understand that they continue to have jurisdictional authority over local governments.
Yeah, one other just point for discussion, and to Commissioner Briscoe's point, and perhaps it's worth doing a little more work, but during COVID, when DE&I was being talked about a lot, some ports put that into active policy. And I'm not gonna be able to quote specifics, but when some funding options came available under the new administration, they wouldn't have been considered or qualified for those opportunities. And so there was some readjusting and backtracking on that. And while we continue to do DE&I training here, it's not stated, it's given to the authority for the management of staff, similar to the recommendation here. So we can certainly do some more work. I just want to set expectations appropriately, that it wouldn't be the next meeting, that it would be probably later in the year, as I mentioned before. So.
And Tiffany, just for, having taken this role and having to be the one who is in charge of the day-to-day operations, how would you feel about entering into this agreement? What's you're not a voting member, but we do value your opinion.
Yeah, what I appreciate in this is the two things. I appreciate the community's interest in talking about this, and understand fully that they're looking to leadership later on, and to memorializing what this particular commission agreed to. With that being said, as we know, it can change with any commission who's sitting here. I appreciate the ability to be responsive and to balance workflow and training. HR uses the term often training fatigue, and so we try to be very intentional about what that training is, and make sure that it's timely and appropriate for whatever is currently happening. So I think we are dynamic in that we take the feedback, and we're responsive with our staff. So that's my thoughts on it.
All right, Commissioner James, would you, is your preference to vote today or hold off?
I've shared my personal feelings about this as an individual commissioner, and like I said, I'm relying on the expertise of our legal counsel, and in my conversations with her, I do believe that this is sort of threading the needle of us staying in our governance role, and then not creating any unintended legal or budgetary issues, at least from the facts that we have them today. So I would support this.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, I believe this, for me, this rises to something that's timely for the community, and I would prefer for us to have a vote on it today.
Motion to approve resolution number 1432, a resolution advancing community protection and civil rights at Port of Bellingham facilities, restricting the use of Port of Bellingham property for civil immigration enforcement purposes and activities.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Commissioner Briscoe.
Given the fact that there's no teeth in this and we're already doing training, no.
And I believe in, I think, both the opportunity for symbolic action and action that has on-the-ground implications, so I will vote for yes. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our action items. We have end of meeting public comment and then other business. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment? Yes.
Vince Bachunas. I spoke first last time, so I'll just say again, thank you very much for your courageous vote. And Commissioner Briscoe's reminding me about the Coast Guard and all. Yes, there are other entities involved, but we know that we shouldn't be obeying in advance. And this is not really political. It's about our Constitution and our Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights and the rights of other Americans. So thank you very much. I really appreciate this vote.
Dan?
Totally switching topics here. Going back to the Blaine discussion, I did want to say that, Mike, you do have our full support and advocacy on the MACA funds, and we will be here to challenge our legislature and challenge our funding for that. And Carly, if you're going down tomorrow, I'd love to connect with you maybe early tomorrow morning, and maybe we can chat about when you get back, actually, we can chat about what you experienced, and maybe I can ping pong off of that with some of the legislatures we have conversations with. But we are just as frustrated to hear that. So thank you for all that you're doing, and we're right there with you.
Yes, Steve.
Steve Seymour, Drayton Harbor Oyster Company. Again, I'm really disappointed about the cleanup effort. When you go to Olympia, please make the point that Drayton Harbor Oyster has spent 30 years cleaning up the bay. And this is one of the last kind of remaining things that needs to be done. And there really is no reason to stall it. And I often wonder if the reason it didn't get considered in Blaine is it's kind of a different area, right? All the other things you talked about reprogramming were Bellingham Bay. And so, you know, let's make that point clear that this effort in Blaine has a long history of cleanup. And it is so critical to not put this off. And then you can also fold in the idea about the whole Maris concept. You know, that's a big initiative that needs clean water, and it really is targeting that area. So use it. And in the same sense, I'm more than happy to help move that message forward. So don't call me so we can connect. Thank you.
Steve, maybe you can talk with Mike. He's got numbers and stuff there he can give you.
Yeah, Mike, we could.
Thank you, Steve. Yes.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I love Drayton Oyster Company. Love your product. Thank you for cleaning up the bay up there. And thank you all for your attention to this matter. I know we've been here for going on 2 months now bringing this issue up. I know it was uncomfortable. That leadership takes courage. So I want to thank you all for your yes votes, and thank the staff for the smart and meaningful resolution. So thanks so much.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you also for passing the resolution. Several other thoughts here. First of all, you know, that this doesn't seem to be happening here. That's not accurate. There's very good data on all the abductions that are happening here in Whatcom County, and we're actually the 3rd highest county in the state for abductions. So just because it's not happening to your family farm, I'm glad to hear that. And, you know, to say that it's not happening is not understanding the facts that's going on here.
I didn't say just to my family farm.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm glad it's not happening to any farm, but it is happening 3rd highest in the state. And also just wanted to correct, we're not actually asking anyone to interject between ICE. I can see how you might have gotten that impression, but we're asking people to know their rights and exercise them. And part of those rights is to be able to assist when it's safe the person that's being abducted by contacting their family members and other ways that can be helped. But no one's asked you to interject any staff members in between an abduction and ICE. That's unsafe. We're not asking for that. And one of the main things here is hoping that we can get more information about the trainings. You know, I respect that you don't want to have an unbudgeted training. I worked in affordable housing for decades, and the state mandated lots of trainings that were unfunded for us as well, so I understand that. But can we get information on what trainings have occurred? Because there's a really wide range of quality of the trainings, and So we'd like to, get some information on what trainings have occurred or what you're planning to train on. We have a lot of resources available here in the county. We want to make sure you're using good quality trainers when you do go for some trainings. And then it was mentioned that, external entities would be queried about this issue when, discussion of tabling it was on the, being talked about. Again, there's a lot of resources that the people that are very quietly engaged with refugees and the people that are being abducted, as you can imagine, they keep a very low profile, and so you may not find them easily. We can help make sure that if you're going out to find out how the county's being impacted, that you're contacting the right people. So thank you very much for passing the resolution. And the requests we made were only that, requests, and you made a decision, and I respect that. So thank you for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Kelsey Tribble. I just wanted to thank you again in person. I sent you all emails thanking you for taking this seriously and spending so much time on it. I wanted to thank you, Tiffany, for bringing up the way that this resolution would memorialize or codify the values that we're talking about, because even if everyone here were to always do the right thing, we don't know who will be in your seats in the future, and I understand there will be an increase in the size of the Port Commission as well. So I just really appreciate having it codified, that we have talked about all of this and that some kind of compromise has been made. It can be so hard to believe that democracy will prevail in our country sometimes, but this has given me hope, and I really thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the room? Do we have anyone online? Okay, we'll move to other business. Commissioner Briscoe?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion under other business that we do make the Pledge of Allegiance mandatory.
Okay.
Is there a second? Or discussion?
Has this ever been a port practice before to do the pledge at our meetings?
Where's Alan Birdsall when we need him?
Yes, I know.
40 years.
Who would,
Anybody recall?
Well, it should be. It's a government.
Yeah.
It should be done.
It's something that happens at a lot of facilities, and I don't have a personal problem. I think I would just be curious to know, like, have we had this in place? Did this leave at some point, and are we asking for it to come back? Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Let's
I know.
have a discussion after a second.
I know they did it. They do it at WPPA. When we were down at WPPA, they did it before there.
All government agencies and their commissions and so on and so forth do this.
Well,
Boards.
Has it been done in your time here?
No. I don't have trouble getting some Robert's Rules of Order up there, let alone
Maybe it's something we could add to the bylaws.
Before Todd brought it up, I had been thinking about it because we were at WPA
Yeah.
and did it, and I'm thinking, why aren't we doing it? Yeah. He beat me to the punch.
Okay. Well, I will be happy to second that motion. I don't have a problem
We can
with
have
doing
all that
that.
discussion.
Any discussion?
So are we just adding it to our printed agenda, or you're saying we need to create?
We'll stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance so everybody in the crowd.
So we have the option here when during other business, we can have a motion and second it, and at that point, it can either be voted today or put on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about putting the allegiance on the agenda. I didn't misunderstand what you said.
And that's actually not a bad idea if people don't know it, but I just mean,
Forget it?
yeah. We just add it, like, because you read the public comment, like, we would just print it on this versus a resolution. Like,
if Holly can interject regarding the next steps for bylaws.
Yeah, so Tiffany and I are working on some formalizing some bylaws, and those are really more kind of rules of process for the commission. Tiffany made a very good point that you are going to be getting two additional commissioners on the commission, and so to your point about Robert's Rules of Order, maybe we need to have things in writing, a little bit more formal. And one of the elements of those bylaws is what is the meeting order? Do we do the call to order? When is public comment in relation to consent agenda, et cetera? So we can add Pledge of Allegiance, right after call to order, if you'd like, on those proposed bylaws, which you'll be reviewing and adopting in any event and being able to discuss that in public. But certainly that's how we can do that. And in the meantime, before those bylaws are actually adopted, it's just something that you can add to the agenda meeting by meeting.
That's where I was going with it. Like, we can just put it on there. Like, we don't have to.
We don't need a vote, really, to do this. This is just kind of something the staff can put onto our agenda each week.
If I may, I can see that Commissioner Briscoe's kind of smiling, right? So if we have what is viewed as symbolic action, this could also be viewed as a symbolic action, and I think he thinks the vote might be important for that symbolic action.
I made a motion and we'll second it, we're discussing, so we either vote no, we're not doing it, or we vote no, or yes, we're doing it after the discussion.
Let's get in practice for when we have 5 of you.
Okay, so we have discussion, and we can decide if we want to vote on this today or if we would like to put this on a future agenda for action. What would you like to? You'd like to vote on today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and restate the motion?
Made a motion that we.
Motion to add the Pledge of Allegiance to the Port of Commission meetings, Port of Bellingham Commission meetings.
Commission meeting.
Okay. All right. I guess we're moving to voting. So Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. Here we go. Thank you for that motion. And the suggestion.
Yeah, look at us taking quick action.
Here we are.
I did just get a text from Dave Warder, you might all recall, who was here for 35 years, and he said not in his 32 years have they ever done the Pledge of Allegiance, but they do it at Western sporting events, so I think it's good for us to do.
Yeah.
Port of Skagit does it at meetings. Well, look at us, getting with the times. Okay, any other items, Commissioner Briscoe?
Oh, sure, we gotta look now. Keep going,
Carly, Commissioner James, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for bringing that forward, Commissioner Briscoe. And I think that was a really valuable demonstration of why we need our bylaws. So I don't have too much. I just wanted to let folks know that I've added a survey on my website, commissionercarly.com. There is a link for community input. And the next step in, you all know that I have my meetings link, so I'm available during office hours. What I would like to do is create some events around the county that happen at different locations, different times of day, where we can have a more casual gathering and conversation to talk about port issues. So it's called Port Talk. And if you want to check out my website and fill out that survey, I'm just looking for input on where we want to meet first and what we want to talk about and what time. So that will be really valuable for me. And then, as I mentioned, I'm off to Olympia for a government-to-government training this week. So I will be excited to report back to you once I'm back from that.
Okay. Let's see. Do you want to talk to us about fan zones and upcoming?
I don't have the dates in front of me, but the city is doing a great amount of outreach, and we're partnering with them for the specific dates of the games. I don't have those, and I don't think the events folks are here.
I actually have them, but they're coming up starting on June 12th.
Yeah.
There's June 12th, 19th, 25th, July 1st, 6th, and 19th, all at Trackside. And then there's a commercial street block party on June 19th, hosted by The Den and Wild Buffalo.
Yes.
And so we've got a variety of events coming up. And what might people be able to expect at fan zone events?
I think a lot of excitement. I've been seeing everybody outreaching, really all up and down the I-5 corridor. To be in between Seattle and Vancouver is obviously unique. And so urging everyone to go out and participate and patronize those local businesses who have received some grants from the city for activating the fan zones.
Okay. And so probably at fan zones, there's going to be viewing opportunities for
games,
viewing the event, and gathering and activities to go along with it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And way better than trying to fight through Seattle traffic.
I would think so, or yeah.
Or anywhere else. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Fan local.
Oh yeah, here. Sorry, not a soccer watcher, obviously,
This
but
has
you
no,
go.
I think you didn't mention what the fan zones were for.
Oh, I didn't even mention the fan
FIFA.
zones are watch parties for the World Cup.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there we go. I didn't complete the thought.
Yeah.
But yes, World Cup watch parties coming to a fan zone near you throughout Whatcom County.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one thing, Mike. Maybe you could come up to the podium for a second. I'm gonna grill you. On our cleanup, the cleanup money, the MOTCA money, what do you think the average dip been by the state in the last 8 years? If you had to average that number out, 60 million a year, you said 70 million just recently, what, any idea, just ballparking?
Sorry, Commissioner, the amount of money the state has spent on cleanup?
No, the amount of money the
swept
state has
from.
taken out of the cleanup fund. Just because they're taking every year. We know
Yeah,
that.
Well, it's a good question. So last biennium, they swept 70 million. They'll also take money and, expand the definition of cleanup. So I think when the voters passed the Model Toxics Control Act, it was to clean up hazardous waste sites, but now they'll take it for, stormwater for streets is a huge, expensive problem that no one has a money for or a solution for, so they'll take MOTCA money for that, right? So it's, it is chemicals going into the bay and, pollution, but or they'll do it for, native gardening programs, or, they'll expand the definition of what we would think of a traditional contaminated site. So there is a lot of revenue coming in, but that makes it a ripe target for, getting it, creating new programs, but just for straight sweeps to the general fund. I know what it was last biennium, and I could get you that number over the past decade.
So it's probably safe to say they're taking anywhere from 70 to 100 million a year.
Yeah,
It's
just
probably a
straight
safe number to
sweeps
get.
into the general fund. Yeah.
So you got $800 million in 8 years, right? And how far behind are we? We're behind on our cleanups because there's not enough money to do the cleanups. That's how you do the ranking thing, correct? And then, well, the ranking, but then that's how you get the money. But there's 4 in front of us that probably, say there were $200 million of cleanup. Those 4 would be gone and would be done. I mean, it's just, all the state is doing is prolonging the cleanups within our state by taking the money. They're not doing what the voters asked. And I just want to get it on record. I want people to understand what's going on. Why we can't get things cleaned up is because the state is stealing the money from over here and putting it over here because it's a gray area. So, I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's probably more than that. So, thanks, Mike.
And I just have,
Tiffany?
just a couple things. I wanted to give the commission an opportunity to discuss the June 23rd, which is our next commission meeting. There was a little bit of uncertainty whether we generally have 2 meetings in June. I know Commissioner Briscoe is getting ready to head off to his fishing season, wishing you good luck and prosperity in the entire fishing fleet. So I believe you will be out of chambers on the 23rd, and then had a discussion with Commissioner Shepard that would possibly be out of chambers. So wanted to give the commission an opportunity to decide whether or not you want to have the June 23rd meeting.
Yeah, it would be my preference to just have one meeting in June. I think we were able to do that kind of process-wise if that works for our schedule.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll just hold the meeting as needed.
From a staff perspective, we don't anticipate having anything that we need approved that would be timely in that way. We did have a Maris presentation scheduled for the 23rd. I would think Maris would like to have the commission in chambers when they give their presentation, but wanted just to be clear that that's kind of what was on the agenda. So I'll leave it to the commission to decide.
So, Steve, if you could step up and enlighten me a little bit on the Maris presentation. Is it something that we can put off? Is it something, the Maris presentation, is it something we can put off till, say, the end of August? I won't be back till the end of August, if they want everybody present here for that.
Well, I really don't want to speak for the whole steering committee, but we're not under any major timeline to have that presentation. You know, I do think most of the commissioners are pretty familiar with Maris, and so much of our presentation was really to
staff,
to the broader audience.
Okay.
But I mean, I can bring it up with this. I mean, it is what it is, right? So we can do this. We can do it in August.
Yeah, and staff continues to be engaged. I think last week you all had a meeting up in Blaine,
Right,
and so we aren't forgetting about Maris.
I don't think it's a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just,
Great. Well,
I really would prefer that all of you were present.
that'd
Yeah.
be great. Well, the project has a lot of support, so it'd be nice for us all to be here for it. Okay.
So, do we have 2 meetings in August?
One meeting in August,
When
Tracy.
Do we have a date on that? How come?
I can probably look on my calendar. It is 18th.
That's a Tuesday. I'll try to be here.
Okay.
Okay, so we just need a motion to change the meeting. Or to cancel the meeting.
And so we're canceling the second meeting this month, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we've got one in July?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I'll make the motion to cancel the second meeting in June.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion? We'll go ahead and move forward with vote.
Motion to cancel the June 23rd Port Commission meeting?
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Also yes. Thank you, Tiffany. That's it? All right, any other items for us for the day?
I have none.
Hearing none, thank you all very much. We are done.